Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is May 6, 2010, and this is Day 9 Daily number 1111. This thing is currently not on the air. Ah. Hey, there it is. It's actually on air. Alright, cool. Whoa, sorry about that. That was a pretty long delay. Yeah, that was actually, all this is an issue happening on my end. My Flash Media Live encoder just sort of tanked on me, so whoopsie daisies. But alright, cool, we're back. We're finally here. For any of you who are watching on demand and are curious what the hell happened, I was trying to do this cast at the start previously, but it completely fell apart and everything went wrong. So I just rebooted and we're just going to give it another shot and hopefully everything will turn out a lot better. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right back into the game. We're going to redo it from the beginning. We have very high frames per second now. Everything is much, much, much smoother. Look at that. Oh, yes, that quality is fantastic. Oh, I'm so happy about that. But we do have Lucifron spawning here in the bottom left as the yellow Terran, and in the right we have Heypro spawning as the red Zerg. So for any of you who are watching live, sorry about this, but I'm going to repeat myself a lot to make sure that the video is great quality for anyone watching on demand. So anyways, let's give this another go around. So, anytime you're trying to do some sort of build order, the most important thing is that you have a solid beginning, middle, and end, that you have a good set of transitions throughout your entire build order, because too often you'll end up with players who do some sort of goofy opening and get in their opponent's face or something like that, and they'll feel really happy about it, but then they'll end up falling apart in the later stages of the game. And we're going to see a great way to play by Lucifron, how he transitions out of a very early Reaper harass, but into a very, very, very solid middle game plan, and ends up, just continuing to put the hurt on in the late game. We're going to see a lot of variety, as Lucifron is going to do this on a wide variety of maps. For any of you who, once again, are watching this at the on-demand, all my videos are going to be uploaded directly after this to day9tv.blip.tv. So that'll be beginning with Day 9 Dailies number 108 and 109, which were the Noni Phoenix games that have had a lot of requests about. But yeah, those are going to be on right after this. I literally finished indexing them like 10 minutes before I went live, which was part of the reason that everything got screwed up, is because I was delaying doing that. But here we have a barracks going down. Everything looks pretty typical by Lucifron. He's getting his barracks up, and this is always a huge sign to Zerg when they can actually see if there is a tech lab going down or not. Lucifron begins to build a marine. Heypro really doesn't want that tech lab to go down, but it does, of course, go down eventually. So the important thing to note here is that when I see this as Zerg, or in fact when most Zergs see this, they're pretty pleased because they know that there's not any sort of Hellion rush coming. It's pretty predictable that it's either going to be Marauders or some kind of Reaper, which we do see right here. So the Zerg will respond by getting a whole bunch of Zerglings. Pretty typical kind of opening, but we're going to come back to that Zergling idea in a little bit. And this, I think, is fairly clever by Lucifron. He's building this bunker in between, so that way he can wall off here. But also, this is a part where Zerg likely wouldn't be scouting. Zerg, a lot of the time, would scout around this area, or would, just sort of hang out in his main, but would miss this area in between. So it's a pretty clever place to throw down a bunker. But one thing that's so important to note is that Reapers are very expensive on time. They're pretty cheap otherwise. They don't really cost any food. Very low on the minerals and the gas. You just need to have some. But 40 time is a very long time. It really eats into the barracks' ability to do anything else. So if you make too many Reapers early on, you need to justify their damage by a ton. So here's Lucifron just having excellent control. And this cliff here on Kulos Ravine is great to abuse. This obviously is going to be a fantastic choice to abuse at any point in time. But the huge issue is that just don't obsess about this. Don't have your build be overly centered on this cliff. This build is going to, as we're going to see, because we're going to be watching a lot of games, is that we're going to see is versatile on a wide variety of maps. So Lucifron is going to abuse this a lot, but I'm interested in what Lucifron's doing back home. He's building a command center. He's doing that, a lot of the reason is because this gas was stolen, but still we're going to see the same basic outline. I'm not going to worry too much about ordering yet, but see, look how awesome this cliff abuse is by Lucifron. Again, just two little old Reapers, but just abusing excellent control by Lucifron, and look at that unbelievable micro by Lucifron. I mean, just incredibly solid play. And now he's just getting some free shots off on this this here hatchery. So I am also going to open up and go to the, I believe the resources tab. Yep, so we're going to have the food counts up pretty frequently throughout the game. And as we see, Lucifron's doing pretty good. He's ahead a little bit. And it's actually, if you open up Reapers, typically your food will be behind, just because the Reapers, as we said, take a very long time to build and don't use much food at all, just one. So it's pretty typical to be behind with food if you do some sort of Reaper opening. So this is fantastic by Lucifron. But he ends up pulling back, and he's just going to be taking out this Vespene Geyser, and he's building a factory. So this is already a little interesting to me. I've seen players open up Reaper, but never quite get a factory this fast. And also he's ending up getting quite a few Marauders, as we're going to see. Still a lot of harassment going on with these Reapers. Has the advantage of this Zelnaga Watchtower. He can see this. And note a lot of the stuff that HeyPro's doing. Look at how Zergling speed is nearing completion. Why is this smart? Well, for a few reasons. First of all, here are the Reapers. First of all, these Reapers are going to be very easy to chase down if we get speed Zerglings. Also, since we've seen this Tech Lab go down, our opponent will likely be building some Marauders afterwards. And Marauders are pretty bad against Zerglings. So, excellent choice overall by Lucifron to do that. Excellent choice overall by HeyPro to do that follow-up with the Zergling speed. And as usual, we see Lucifron trying to get some more pot shots off, doing some good damage here to this Queen. Just incredible control. A little bit of a screw-up here by Lucifron letting him get up the ramp like that. But we're just going to dash forward a little bit. We have appreciated Lucifron's harassment with the Reapers. Yeah, great. But this is a very interesting choice, getting this reactor up very quickly. Still no other barracks, and now he's getting a starport. But the idea is he is going to do harassment with Reapers and force his opponent to make a lot of speed Zerglings, at which point he's already going to have a ton of Hellions up, not only to defend against those Zerglings, but to continue putting pressure on his opponent. And of course, we need to get some Marauders because they're a solid base unit for our army, and they're phenomenal against Roaches. And obviously, Reapers and Hellions are pretty bad against Roaches, but Lucifron, with a 9-kill Reaper, continuing to rack him up as much as possible. So pretty nice timing by HeyPro being able to bust in there and put a little bit of hurt on right before these Hellions end up popping up. And he's repairing away, and Starport's now done, so he can end up getting some Vikings. Vikings, I think, are an increasingly good choice against Zerg players, because it's almost like the Corsair in Protoss vs. Zerg in the original Brood War. Because there's Overlords all over the place, you need them to do spotting. If for any reason, if at any point in time, you don't have excellent anti-air coverage anywhere, those Overlords are a gigantic vulnerability. And the Vikings can exploit that really, really nicely. So, I personally would think about incorporating the Vikings just because it makes me feel like a badass to begin Reaper harass, straight into Hellion harass, straight into Viking harass, and still having those Marauders around to be able to stay alive and do some decent hurt on the enemy. So I'm going to bounce right back here to the main screen, and it didn't lag. Hooray, that's fantastic. I am just delighted that it's lagging out on me, but, you know, no big deal. We're going to finish this game regardless. This frames per second issue is something that's been happening with Starcraft 2 lately. It's a little memory leak that it's been having. I mean, the camera's fine, but the Starcraft 2, if I try to adjust it just a little bit, is going to, yeah, it's going to stabilize at around 16 frames per second, so no big deal. The game's still completely understandable at this rate. But it'll pop right back up when I do the next game. So HeyPro already has a lot of Zerglings up. How is he going to follow it up? Well, he's getting triple gas. You know, he's pretty much been relying on just one Geyser for the time being. And that's okay, but, you know, it's all because of the fact that we've been forced to make all these Zerglings to deal with this gigantic harassment that's been going on non-stop by our opponent. You know, we've had to make cuts on drones early on, and now we're trying to replace those drones. And look at these Hellions just roasting everything. Really cool little transitioning. And he's just going to continue making Hellions, and now he's going to back up and begin adding on all these extra barracks. And he's just going to continue fairly normally, and all will be fine and well and good. So, overall, very nice play by Lucifron. We really like this sort of transitioning action. And the thing is, I'm not actually going to finish this game. First of all, because it's lagging out a little bit. But most importantly, because it's that transitioning from the start that I think is so key. That is, oh, look, StarCraft is now rebooting on me, so I'm going to drag it off to this screen, so that way I can actually put in my password in peace without displaying it over the internet. But what's really important about that, what's particularly juicy, is that transition of Reapers into Hellion Marauder, which is a little funky, and then also getting that starport early on I like quite a bit. It's unusual, but it has so many strengths. The first one is that with the Reaper Harass we can do so much damage, and then the follow-up, any follow-up with Marauders is pretty typical by Terrans, just because they need some way in order to stay alive against roaches. So there it is, that's the one, the easiest transition.